I'm Tina Reynolds with Uptown Studios. This is Uptown Studios Live. Today we're going to be joined with Mai Vang, one of our newest city council members. I'm so thrilled. I just got off the phone with her. She was out at Luther Burbank, the vaccination clinic, and there were hundreds of people out there, and she's driving like a mad woman, getting home so that she can jump on the interview. I think that what happened is that they had to announce that they're not using the Johnson & Johnson vaccinations. And so there was a bunch of stuff that she had to go and be there to talk to people and make sure that they knew that the Pfizer vaccine was really good. In fact, Bex, who's working behind the scenes here, is going out to Luther Burbank this afternoon to get her vaccination. It's like, everybody's getting vaccinated. We can see each other. I think that one of the most fabulous things is yesterday I had people over to the house, and two people, and they were both vaccinated, and we played with clay in the afternoon, and we got to hug. I think that is just, I didn't know that I missed hugs until I started hugging people again. And it is just wonderful to be able to have our old selves back. Have people over. So I hope you're considering your vaccination. I know that if you are in Meadowview, they're having them at Luther Burbank. You probably have to call and get an appointment. I've got 2 staff members that are getting vaccinated today. It's opened up. It's like magic. You're going to be able to travel again soon. I don't think you're going to be able to go to Europe though, because Europe is a little bit iffy. They're having more outbreaks now. But, traveling around here, seeing your grandparents and your parents and grandchildren and friends that you haven't seen in a long time, it's all part of what it is that we call our world. And here it is. It's so exciting that we get to open up and see each other again. In this past, Maya and I are going to talk about homelessness in Meadowview. We're going to talk about anti-Asian hate. Here she is! Yay, Maya!
Hi everyone! I literally just pulled up left Luther Burbank, so I am so sorry I'm late. Hi everyone.
So I was just telling them that you were out at Luther Burbank for the vaccinations, and the Johnson & Johnson has been held, and they're doing Pfizer vaccinations. And you had to be out there to talk to people about the change and make sure that everybody knows that it's all good. Go ahead, you can get your injection, and it's still all good. How many people were out there?
Lots of folks, lots of folks, hundreds of people. And so it's really great to see so many folks from our community, folks that look like us in South Sacramento lined up. And it was a partnership between Sac City Unified School District, the county, and also the city of Sacramento. And just really happy with the turnout. I know there are some hesitancy, and rightfully so. I shared in a post reflection this morning that as a daughter of Hmong refugee, I know firsthand just the mistrust that our people have with government. Yeah. And even as a new councilwoman, I think in any spaces that I enter, I'm finding myself having to always help to rebuild that trust, right?
Yeah. That's why it's important that women like you are elected to our city council and all government offices. If people can see people like them in positions like yours, it makes all the difference. It builds trust, and it gives hope that little Hmong girls can be whatever they choose to be.
Thanks, Tina. Yeah. There's still a lot of work ahead, and I think the road ahead is going to be rough, but I'm really hopeful. Even though we do have a high mistrust of government and medical institution, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
We know that COVID has and will continue to disproportionately impact low-income, Black, Latino, Southeast Asian, LGBT, Indigenous community. So we have to do everything we can to reach herd immunity so that our families and our loved ones can come out of this pandemic stronger and healthier. And so we have to make sure. We're going to have to do some good public health messaging
ahead. And show up. Keep showing up. It's like, that's why it's important that I'll cover for you for going out to Luther Burbank and being there with all the people and making sure that they know this is okay.
Yes.
You can trust me. You're a trustworthy representative of your community. And that's why it's important that you're there. I want to talk about anti-hate. It's like, I know that you've had some rallies and you've done some work. Tell me what you're doing and what you're going to do. How is it going?
Thanks, Tina. Yeah, I feel like we're fighting multiple pandemics at multiple fronts, right? So I think, as many of y'all know, anti-Asian hate incident has been on the rise. But I will share that it's not something that's new in our community. This country has a long and painful and racist history of, everything from federal legislation to internment camps. When I say federal legislation, like the first federal law was the Page Act, which prohibited Chinese women and Asian women from entering this country, right? That was one of the first law. And so this country has a long and racist history. So anti-Asian hate and incident isn't something that's new, but it was really important, I think, as a government entity, for my colleagues, the mayor and the council, to reaffirm and to acknowledge the harm and trauma that has existed in our community. When I was approached to do a resolution, I think my first instinct as a community organizer is like, what is this piece of paper going to do, right? That's my organizer hat. But I also know, and from speaking with community folks on the ground, it's really important to acknowledge and affirm it, to affirm that is an issue, and so that we can have a foundation to continue the work.
Right. Putting a name on it. A piece of paper is just a piece of paper, and it doesn't create the change, but it makes it public, right?
Yeah.
So that people can start talking about it.
Yeah. And I mean, there are some tangible things that we're doing. We're going to be holding space for Asian American leaders and residents to come together, because what I will share is that what we've been doing hasn't worked for our communities. And it's going to be really important to make sure that the solutions we have are community led. I mean, they're not waiting for government right now. I mean, right now, there are community-based organizations and residents on the ground doing everything they can to protect our communities, like the Safety on Stockton, where folks are buddying up with elders when they're leaving stores and businesses. And so communities do have solutions. We just have to listen to them. We have to make sure that all solutions are on the table.
Yeah, I think that it's like the work that we do at Uptown. It really is target audience, and your focus groups that lead the conversation and all the things that we do. It's like, what is it that you need that we can help you with? And then when they can tell you, then that's going to change everything, right? Right? And we can design a campaign that's comes from the people that it's affecting. It's going to be way more effective.
Yeah, I always quote one of my favorite community activists, Grace Lee Boggs, and she says, the only way to survive is by taking care of each other, right? And that's really important in this moment and in all moments, that we have to stand up and take care of each other. That's how we're going to be able to create change, right? Because racism is complex, it's multifaceted, and there are critical steps that we can take. But I think standing up in solidarity, unpacking our history, right? Learning about each other, learning about the Asian American history, learning about Black history. That's really important for us to really build a society where we are truly about protecting humanity and investing in humanity, investing in people.
Right. Well, and I know as a part of the LGBTQI community that when things were really bad for us, we needed our community to stand up with us. You can't do it alone. If your community, API community, is suffering, I'm going to stand with you because you need me there. You need all of us there. We need to join as a group, and then we can really start affecting change. I'm going to watch out for you to make sure that if I see something, I'm going to say something and do something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The other thing I would also add, Tina, I think, in conversations with folks who are not Asian is also in any spaces that I'm in to really demystify the model minority myth, right? So there's this really harmful stereotype that Asian Americans, don't experience racism. They see us as a monolithic group when our community is incredibly diverse. We actually have the largest wealth gap within the Asian American Pacific Islander community. And the model minority myth, what it does is it's incredibly harmful because what it does is it masks the disparities among the Asian American community, particularly Southeast Asian, Pacific Islanders, right? And what it does is it really erases the anti-Asian racism and violence when folks, perpetuate the model minority myth, right? And that's the reason why Asian Americans oftentimes are rendered invisible, and they're
invisible. And that's the word that it has meaning there, because so many times you are invisible, and we need to make you visible. We need to elevate you, bring you up, and help whenever you need my help. You've got it.
Yeah, thanks, Tina.
Yeah,
we're totally in this together, right? And it's not just an issue that impacts the Asian community. I mean, when I think about the tragic incident in Atlanta, right? That it's not going to be seen as a hate crime because the perpetrator was just having a bad day. The victims were women, right? There's a lot to unpack right there, right? There's layers of misogyny and harmful stereotypes against Asian women, right?
Yes.
And so the disregard for race and gender in the acts of violence really erases the painful history that Asian Americans, that Asian immigrant, that Asian woman has faced in this country.
Oh yeah, and it's been lifelong for her, and it's been lifelong for you. It's like, I'm sure that you've felt the racism against you.
Yeah.
In all of the work that you've done.
Yeah.
You've been so pivotal in being prominent and seen. You're not the invisible one, and you're never going to be invisible. But you have that voice that can elevate all of the others. And I appreciate you so much for all that you do, and your presence and your voice. And Thanks. You're not afraid to speak up.
Thanks. And I would say, like, Asian American women, we've been speaking up, just no one has been listening, right? That's the issue. No one has been listening, and now we are in the consciousness of America, and it's about what are we going to do in this moment? One, not just for the Asian American community, but in solidarity with all communities, with the LGBT community, with the Black community. In the wake of ongoing protests, given George Floyd, the trial that's happening, the incident that we just saw in Minneapolis as well.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. It's just horrible. It's joining together. It really is joining together. I think that one of the great steps that we have is our new city council with you and Katie, and it's such a good mix of people now. The voices can really talk about different communities and make changes that are way overdue, way overdue. So what are you fighting for in your community? What's the three top things?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I will say, Tina, during the campaign trail and even now, COVID recovery remains my top priority. I represent an area that's incredibly diverse, and I have the zip code in my area, 95823, that has the largest cases of COVID in the city and in the county. And when the vaccines were slowly rolling out, we saw that lots of the vaccination pop-ups were happening in wealthier neighborhoods, right? And if you're going to roll out vaccine, it should be in the areas hardest hit. And so COVID recovery has and always will be my top priority because it impacts everything from education, social, emotional learning of our students, given distant learning. It's impacted our minority businesses. I think about tenants, renters, right, who are literally one paycheck away. COVID touches everything. And so when we were sworn into office, because it's not just me bringing the people with me to City Hall, even though I'm in my room right now because of COVID, so I haven't worked out of City Hall. We made sure to actually hit the ground running. The public engagement piece and connecting folks to resources was really important because of the CARES dollars that were coming down from the federal government. And the city was responding and providing resources, but wanted to make sure that these resources were connected to folks on the ground. And so we held 5 town halls, COVID recovery town halls on specific issue, everything from food insecurity, because Meadowview in South Sac is a food desert, which is one of my top priorities on addressing food insecurity. Food justice is something I'm incredibly passionate about, to tenant protections and our unhoused community, to support for minority-owned businesses, to worker protections, right? When we talk about PPE and youth and families, how are we supporting our families and youth during this time? It was really important for me and city staff and community partners that are providing these services, one, to share that information, but also to hear back from the community about missed gaps and opportunities, things that we are not doing well, so we can make sure to fill that gap. So that has been a priority for me, and the food insecurity piece we knew had already existed, but the pandemic definitely widened the disparities. So food justice is something that it's something that I'm really passionate about. We also had Luther Burbank. We have an urban ag pathway there, and I think there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, this city prides itself in being the farm to fork capital. Yeah. What I would share with folks is oftentimes our families don't even have forks, and so how do we create a model that's sustainable, that really trains this region? I mean, cultivating the next generation of farmers and leaders to really address food insecurity head on. So there's a lot of issues impacting the city, our communities, but I think being laser focused on COVID recovery, what does that mean? Because it's been able to show us all of the gaps in our system.
Right. All the gaps became glaringly apparent, didn't they?
Everything, even with digital equity. So like, for example, we're having a conversation now, but folks who don't have access to Wi-Fi might not be able to see this talk, right? And so what are we also doing to reach out to families and folks that may not have access to Wi-Fi? And so digital equity is really important. When I was on the campaign trail and as a school board member, that was my top priority, making sure that our students and our families are connected, because everything is online. Applying for resources and services, everything is online, and we have to make sure that our families stay on and that they're connected.
Yeah, well, and at least the kids are.
Yes,
right, and then they can tell the elders in whatever family they're in. So talk a little bit more about food insecurity. Do you have anything in the works? Are there any markets or new farmers markets that are going to be popping up?
Tina, that's a really great question. And the team is hustling, and I don't want to announce anything because I'm still working to get things done.
There's something in the works. You're not going to reveal.
I will share that, I want to give a shout out to all of our churches and our CBOs and food banks that have stepped up in this moment to meet the needs of our family. So I'll give an example. Pastor Les Simmons from the South Sac Christian Center, every weekend they do food distribution. And I've been out there helping Pastor Les and his incredible team to do that. Our nonprofits, our CBOs on the ground working with food bank to connect our families at apartment complexes to food. So there's stuff happening in the community to meet this moment, but we also have to think long term, right?
Yeah,
how do we get people to buy their own food? How do we make sure that we don't have a food desert? How do we ensure, for example, Food Source closed on Mac Road, and so what are we going to do to reactivate that space and bring a grocery store back? There are other ideas brewing, everything from a farmers market here in South Sacramento.
You can tell me. I won't tell anyone.
I know this is like to activating vacant lots, right? Because for our community, there is so much talent here in South Sacramento. Hmong farmers, Southeast Asian farmers, Black farmers, and we have to be able to mobilize the skills and the talent that we do have already in this community because of this opportunity, and provide the resources as well to make sure that we could eliminate this area as a food desert.
All right. So food desert is connected to transportation.
It is.
Are you working with SAC-RT on getting more routes, more hours? I mean, it's like, that is so frustrating for me that we can't get consistent service to the areas that really need it.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, it runs after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you get off at 6, how do you get to the store? Right.
Yeah. You're Tina, you're absolutely right. Right. When I think about a healthy community, I close my eyes and I think about what do they have access to, right? Abundance of resources, right? That their communities and neighborhoods are walkable. They have access to transit, right? They have, the grocery store is down the street, right? Safe parks are activated. This is the type of community that I wouldn't say that I envision, but what I have heard from community. So we can get there. We just need the political will to make sure that we have those investments. The other thing,
what can we do to get the political will? You're there. I know Katie's there, and she's got political will. What other local things do we need to activate? Because that's where it starts. It's like, okay, we have all the political will that we need, and the next is the financing, and then connecting with all of the other people. What's missing? Is there a particular thing that's missing that would help?
Well, so the thing is, Tina, is also there are so many issues right now, right? And so they're like everything from transportation to climate, but they're all very, very connected. I think one thing I will share with you is that, as a councilwoman, I just don't go to city council meetings and read the city council packet, but we also serve on boards and commission. So for example, Katie and I are both on STA, right? The Transit Authorities, Transportation Authority. So in these JPAs, there are also decisions that are being made. And it's really important that folks tuned in, not just at city council meeting, but also at these JPA meetings where critical decisions are being made about funding, right? About infrastructure. But I will also say the other piece is that government oftentimes also complicated. Right. So how do we also make it easy for folks to digest and understand the information and help them navigate? And so my team and I have been really talking about this and figuring out how does that engagement look like? How do we get folks engage, in public hearings, right? So we do here's your briefing for city council. We have an Instagram post that key things that, that there's a lot of stuff on the city council packet, a lot of digest, but here are some key things that you should be watching out for, right? So we do that. The other piece I would say is, when you think about civic engagement, something that I'm also trying to push is that something as simple as language equity and language access, we don't have. Like, think about our city council meeting. Folks, we are now on Zoom, and like in Fresno City, they have the ability right now, and they're going to expand it to have simultaneously interpreters, Spanish and Hmong. We don't have that in the city of Sacramento, and we should be able to have language access. I believe folks have to go into the clerk to make sure that we have an interpreter ready to go, but that can't happen. We have to make sure that we have interpreters on site. So that language equity piece is also really important as well. That folks are informed, engaged, and that they feel welcome in these type of spaces.
So what about like ATM cards and having ATM machines? Do you find that people don't have cards in Meadowview? They don't use banks. They're just using cash, because I think that's a social inequity that we have across the board, that low income people don't have an ATM card, so they can't use it. I mean, it limits so much that you can do and can't do.
Yeah, we definitely need more financial credit unions in our communities, right? Community owned.
So say credit union, are you listening? You Mai Vang.
Community owned banks, right? That's really important. So I mean, there's a lot of work ahead, Tina, to do in our communities. But the other piece about that is also financial literacy. Right. Like I didn't even learn about Roth IRA, or like how to invest, how to save up. Like that wasn't taught in college, and our parents didn't know about it, and so
and you don't have anybody that influences you in that way. Or even just to get the ATM card. What's the process that you have to do? Absolutely. And how hard is it? And I don't know about it, so I'm not going to do it.
Or opening it.
There's nobody to teach me. Right?
Yeah. So financial literacy is a huge thing that we have to make sure that we push as well in our community. I mean, there's so many issues, right, Tina?
There's so many. It's so much, and you can't just do one at a time. I know that you're doing 20 things at a time.
Yeah. One thing I'm learning, because I'm all about action and getting things done, is I'm learning to be impatiently patient. And that's really hard for me. Right.
Because you're just impatient.
I am. I have a sense of urgency, right? Because the need is so dire, and our families and our communities are struggling. So, it's all about the action. Like, I don't want to have a meeting just to have a meeting. Like, what is the next action step to make sure that we meet the needs of our community? But I'm also learning you have to be very intentional in how you move forward in terms of outreach, because I too also will have blind spots, right? And so it's really important to move forward with intentionality. That really matters. So I'm learning how to be impatiently patient, but I am very impatient because our community needs support now. So
and people are suffering now, in the now, today, right now.
This moment.
It's like, I don't have enough food and I have no way to get to the food.
Yeah.
What do I do? What do I do? I have no phone. My phone got cut off. I'm going to get rooted out of my apartment now. It's like, and who do I even contact? How do we, is there a space that you have set up, or that the city has set up for those types of emergencies, where, I mean, it's really challenging, because I don't know who to call. I don't know how to get help. and my kids are going to be homeless, or I need some emergency help and I don't have a phone.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there should be something. This impatiently patient, it just leads to impatience. And I'm with you.
I know. Yeah. So, we do have it's online. That's the other part of digital equity. We have
right.
online. The city has a Sacramento COVIDrelief.org. Lots of information for youth and families, for small businesses, for nonprofits, everything regarding COVID, vaccine. So we do have that information up on our website. But again, it's the digital equity piece. A big part of it is also making sure that information that our community-based organization and trusted messengers on the ground, our churches, are actually, they're equipped with the information so that they could provide that to the community, right? That's really key, and that's really important, which is another reason why I feel like our vaccination clinic at Pinnell is really successful, because before we launch and fought to secure those vaccines, I gather about 14 CBOs together we check in every week about what are the numbers, what are the challenges, how do we need to readjust, right? Because the state didn't think about the infrastructure at the local level to actually roll out the vaccine. And so now it's like my council office, Kat knew, she's amazing, and Ryan and Jaime they're literally coordinating everything with the CBOs, with the county, with city staff to make sure that, we have a smooth clinic. And it's not a coincidence that our numbers look very different from other vaccination pop-ups. With about our first vaccination clinic, it was about 90% were from Black, Latino, Southeast Asian, Pacific Islander community, and over 52% were folks with limited English speaking.
Wow.
And there's a reason why.
That's really big.
I know those numbers are so different from the state and from other vaccine sites when they first were rolling out. And there's a reason why. Is because we were very intentional about outreach and making sure that people that didn't have access to Wi-Fi, all of that they were connected, that they got an appointment, because that's really important. Intentionality in how you do outreach and how you move forward.
So are the schools talking to the students in the classroom to tell them there's some vaccination clinics, you need to take this to your parents and grandparents?
I hope that's happening. I'm not on the school board anymore, but I am in close communication with Trustee Chinua Rhodes. He's amazing. I was at Luther Burbank with him. He's great on parent engagement. And he did a video and he posted it up on his social media. I believe the district is sending information out to parents and families. They should. It is an open vaccination clinic, limited to a certain zip code, but this Friday we release that cap. But that information piece to our students and families is absolutely important and critical.
Right. Well, the students are so important because you have access to them, and then they can take it to the rest of their family. I mean, we've used students in so many of our campaigns to educate the students, to educate their parents and their grandparents, because they're not getting the right information out to them.
Yeah. And I was really thrilled to see our student board member out there as well, volunteering and signing people up, and it was really, really great. So it's definitely a collaborative effort. But you're absolutely right.
And it's down to 16 now, so we've got to educate the students.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, get them out there. And how do they get there? Is RT still giving free bus rides to vaccines?
Yes, they are. Yeah. I mean, there was no way we could have delivered our vaccine clinic last Friday. We had thousands of people. The Pinnell Center couldn't hold parking. And so folks parked at the Meadowview light rail station, and RT was shuttling folks back and forth.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
It was really awesome. It was a great partnership.
Awesome. So what do they have to do to get a free ride? Just say, I'm going to get a vaccine?
Yep, pretty much it. Yep.
Okay, you don't have to show anything. You just have to say, I'm going to get my vaccine. And we have like a minute left.
I know. I just saw that.
I told you it would go fast. It's like there's so much.
It is going to go fast. I guess my last word, since we are live, is I really want to just hone in and say to everyone, first, I'm sending all of y'all lots of love and healing. But most importantly, take this moment to really take care of yourself, because I want to say that self-care is really important, because we're going to need you in the fight ahead. And we can't do that without you. No one entity, no one elected official can do this work alone. It is truly a community collaborative effort to truly transform system and make sure that no one's left behind. And that means I'm going to need all of you fighting alongside me. That means that I need y'all to take care of yourself as well. So make sure to do that. Take care of yourself because we're going to need you now and in the fight ahead.
Oh, absolutely true. Thank you, Mai. And everybody should follow Mai on her social media channels. She shares so much information on her social media. Follow her. You'll get it right then. Thank you, Mai. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the great work that Uptown Studios is doing in the city as well. Love all the great comms that y'all are doing. I mean, messaging is important, getting the message out there. So just shout out to Uptown Studios as well for the great work they're doing.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Goodbye. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.